Welcome to Civil Services Achievers Point. Today we are discussing the Assam Tribune of 15th August 2020. At Civil Services Achievers Point, we have various courses. Students are encouraged to join them in order to ensure rank in the upcoming examination. This Assam Tribune analysis is based on the new pattern of APSC. However, it will also be useful for UPSC and other state level government examinations. These are the various important newspaper articles we will discuss. We will also discuss very important editorials from 15th August 2020, the Assam Tribune. So students, let us begin. The first article which we are discussing today is the center to receive rupees 57,128 crore rupees from RBI. Now this topic we will discuss under the General Studies 3 Economic Development topic. The Board of Reserve Bank of India RBI on Friday approved the transfer of rupees 57,128 crore surplus to the Government of India for financial year 20. The decision was taken at the 584th meeting of the Central Board under the chairmanship of RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das. Now, who is the RBI Governor? The RBI Governor is Mr. Shaktikanta Das. Students, please make a note of it because APSC sometimes asks the governors of RBI so that if any question comes in prelims, then we can mark the correct option. The board reviewed the current economic situation, continued global and domestic challenges, and the monetary, regulatory, and other measures taken by the RBI to mitigate the economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic. So the board discussed or reviewed the current economic situation, global and domestic challenges, the monetary, regulatory, and other measures which are taken by RBI to mitigate the economic impact of COVID-19 impact or COVID-19 pandemic. The board also approved the transfer of rupees 57,128 crore as surplus to the central government for the accounting year 2019 to 20 while deciding to maintain the contingency risk buffer at 5.5%. So this is very important. The transfer amount is rupees 57,128 crore as the surplus to the central government. In the last fiscal, the RBI approved a rupees 1,76,000 crore, that is 24.8 billion US dollar dividend payment to the government, including rupees 1,48,000 crore for fiscal year 20. The Reserve Bank decides on the amount of surplus or dividend transfer to the government based on its income during the period July 1 to June 30. The RBI earns via interest income on account of open market operations, foreign exchange gains, and writing back of excess risk provisions. So the various ways of RBI's income or earnings is through the open market operations, various bonds, various government securities, etc., foreign exchange gains, exports. So these are the earning points, and the RBI also has liabilities include issuance of notes, guarantees, deposits held against the CRR, and the reverse repos. So the various interest rates which the RBI promises to banks if RBI borrows money. So those are the liabilities for RBI. The transfer of surplus is expected to help government ease fiscal pressure caused due to the COVID-19 pandemic and also aid it in giving the economy a boost. In hindsight, the demand on the RBI for higher dividends and to part away with a greater share of its capital has been a hotly debated issue between the central bank and the government. So this topic is important. Students, kindly make a note of it. The next topic which we are discussing today is CCPA demands 100% import duty on tea. That is, the Consultative Committee of Plantation Associations has demanded 100% import duty. Import duty means whenever we import any good, if there is a duty or tax on it, it is called import duty. So on tea, they are demanding. Now this topic we will study under General Studies 3 paper, Economic Development. The Consultative Committee of Plantation Associations, CCPA, the apex body of tea planters associations of the Consultative Committee of Plantation Associations, the country has opposed the reported demand made by tea importers for reducing import duties on tea. So various tea importers are there in India. They are demanding for reducing import duties on tea, and this association has opposed the demand. It has demanded 100%. The association has demanded 100% import duty on tea, maintaining the status quo. Reduction or abolition of import duty on tea would facilitate cheap teas flooding the domestic market with disastrous consequences for the indigenous tea economy. So the association said that if the import tax or the import duty is reduced or abolished, then cheap teas would flood the domestic market with disastrous consequences with the already ailing indigenous tea market or tea economy. In its representation to the Union Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal, the association said any move to reduce the import duty on tea would have an adverse impact on the demand-supply equilibrium, thereby adversely affecting the economic viability of the tea producers and the livelihood of 1.2 million workers directly employed by the Indian tea industry. So any tampering with the import duty on tea would have an adverse impact on the demand supply equilibrium, and also it will affect the economic viability of the tea producers, that is the cost of tea production, and the livelihood of 1.2 million workers would become at trouble, which are directly employed by the Indian tea industry. It said India is one of the largest producers and consumer of tea, accounting for 23% of the world production and around 13% of the world tea export. Production of Indian tea has increased rapidly over the last decade, primarily due to the emergence of small tea growers sector. As per available data, the livelihood of over 3 lakh small tea growers and their families is dependent on the sustainability and viability of the indigenous tea industry. India produces close to 1,400 million kgs of tea, out of which around 250 million kgs are exported, while domestic consumption accounts for around 1,100 million kgs. Thus, the absorption level has not kept pace with the production level, resulting in oversupply and price stagnancy year after year. It is expected that if the recent increase in the prices of tea is sustained, it will contribute towards restoration of the viability of the ailing producing segment, which has been incurring huge losses for the past few years. So certain corrective measures has been suggested by the association regarding tea industry. So students kindly make a note of it, because tea is a very important industry sector as per our syllabus. Also, it is important in our Assam perspective GS5 paper. So students, please make a note of it and use these points in examination if any question regarding tea comes in the exam. Now we will discuss very important editorials of 15th August. Now, from history purpose, from modern Indian history, the independent phase also impacted Assam, and in this editorial, that phase of Indian independence movement with respect to Assam is discussed. The first topic, Assam Doyens at dawn of independence, that is the great Assamese personalities at the dawn of independence. This topic we will study under General Studies on Assam paper, History of Assam topic. The gruesome events of Indian freedom movement remain a stark reality for our soil. The world's largest democracy has tales of heroism and courage of innumerable people who have carved out India's freedom. In this strife for Swaraj, the role of the youth has been exemplary. So the role of the youth of that time will be discussed in this editorial. The youth in the 1930s and 40s had faced the gravity of the freedom movement, and their education and work were interlaced with the happenings around them. Towards the last stages of struggle for independence, the complexity is amplified with a near paradigm shift with the emergence of the communal aspect. From the call for independence from British rule led by Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Lala Lajpat Rai and Gandhi, later a poignant turn towards religious partition surfaced. The threshold of freedom was engulfed in a turmoil when the Muslim League under Muhammad Ali Jinnah demanded for Pakistan. So the call for independence, which was made by Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Lala Lajpat Rai, and Gandhi, among others, later took a religious partition, and the freedom was engulfed. The freedom of India was engulfed with partition when the Muslim League under Muhammad Ali Jinnah demanded for Pakistan. Days were marked by miserable episodes at many parts which resonate till date. One such episode was August 16, 1946. This date is very important. Students, please make a note of it. August 16, 1946, Direct Action Day, called by Jinnah. It was a general strike called in Calcutta to assert the demand for Pakistan. This led to ghastly communal riots in the city, which saw the death of thousands of people. This tragic day is engraved in Assamese history as well. In one fragment, it pierced Assam's heart, while another instance witnessed the emergence of Assamese student leaders who went on to become the pride of Assam. In 1943, four Assamese youth, Dulal Bhuya, Ubedul Latif Borua, Kamal Narayan Soduri, and Purushottam Das took the initiative to bring out an Assamese program in Kolkata's Akashvani Radio Center. In no time, the program gained popularity, and soon the discussions on Assamese language and culture were further conversed at Assamese homes and hostels in Calcutta, as if a new Assamese renaissance had emerged. On that day, Kamal Narayan Soduri was in charge of the program. However, his residence in the College Street was riot affected, and with the communal classes ubiquitously gaining momentum, his leaving home was impossible. It became evident that the program would not be aired. Yet he turned on the radio like the other Assamese listeners, and sharp at 6 p.m. to his surprise, an imposing voice announced, All India Radio Kolkata, now we are on air with our Assamese broadcast. Defying all threat, a young Assamese student in Kolkata, Atul Chandra Saikia, took the responsibility of broadcasting the program, held with reverence by the Assamese. The fire within the youth was sparked by his mother, Chandraprabha Saikiani, a name which echoed in the corridors of the freedom movement. On the same day, another location, the Raja Ram Narayan Street, stood witness to the catastrophic riots piercing Assam in its heart. A group of hostel mates, many Assamese among them, were wedged in the rampage. Poet Amulya Borua, merely 24 years, a pioneer of modern Assamese poetry, lost his life as he was trapped in the riots. So much so that his mortal remains could not be found, as ghastly sights of slain and charred bodies enveloped the lanes. The young Atul Chandra Saikia and music maestro Dr. Bhupen Hazarika rummaged around in desperation, looking for Amulya Borua, but in vain. Amulya Borua had the manuscript of Birendra Kumar Bhattacharya's first novel with him on that day, which got charred along with the poet himself. As the riots ebbed, Atul Chandra Saikia became a frontrunner volunteer for the rescue and rehabilitation of the riot-afflicted people from Assam. He was a student leader since long and was imprisoned along with his mother during the Quit India movement of 1942. Later, he entered as the first batch of volunteers at the Indian National Trade Union Congress in May 1947 and took the task to set up a trade union among the working class. He went on to mentor numerous trade unions of Assam, prominently State Transport Workers Union, Refinery Workers Union, HPC Jagirod Paper Mills Workers Union, etc., and nourished them under the Gandhian principles. He represented the various Indian trade organizations or unions at international platforms, including the International Labour Organization in Geneva. He was also a lecturer in the International Confederation of Free Trade Union, Asian Regional College. He left his lucrative job to devote himself for the service of the poor. He was also elected to the Assam Assembly from the East Guwahati constituency. Amolya Barua, born in Jorhat in 1922, pursued his MA in English in Calcutta University since 1945. The untimely demise of the brilliant poet had left an eternal void in the world of Assamese poetry. Through his awe-inspiring poems, he expressed his resentment towards social injustice that had overwhelmed the society. His poetry called out to mankind to traverse into an era of liberty, nurturing a progressive and enhanced society. His poem Koila, published in the Cottonian in 1944, became famous as a symbol of the daily worker's life and struggle. His collection of poems, Ochina, that is the stranger, was published posthumously, that is after his demise in 1964, and included poems like Andharar Hahakar, Tumult of Darkness, Biplobi the Revolutionary, and Kukur the Dog. His poems have been translated to Bengali, Hindi, Uriya, English, and even French and German. His poem Laments of Darkness was selected in a modern Indian literature and anthology published by Sahitya Academy, which also includes works of Rabindranath Tagore, Sarojini Naidu, etc. Birendra Kumar Bhattacharya, who lost a great friend and also had to forego the manuscript of his first novel, later contributed immensely to Assamese literature as a poet, novelist, journalist, essayist, storyteller, and critic. He was the president of the Sahitya Academy, the paramount literary position, and was conferred the Gyanpith in 1979. So this is a very important information. Students, please make a note of it. Birendra Kumar Bhattacharya was conferred the Gyanpith in 1979. So this may be asked in preliminary examination of APSC. A witness to the fateful day was Dr. Bhupen Hazarika, who was then a student of the Banaras Hindu University. His interaction with illustrious personalities like S. Radhakrishnan, Acharya J.B. Kripalani, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, Bismillah Khan, and Kanthe Maharaj ignited a vigorous intellectual and musician within him. His contribution to Assam amalgamates into being posthumously conferred with the Bharat Ratna, India's highest civilian award in 2019. The disastrous events of Direct Action Day on August 16, 1946 has been a day etched in our history, igniting the spirit of fearlessness, hope, bravery amidst despair and hideous human conflict. So this was a very important editorial based on the history of Assam. Please, students, you may note down the important points from here because a question in prelims and mains may be asked by APSC. The editorial further discusses today's youth may not have heard these awe-inspiring stories which constitute a legacy for every Assamese. They ought to reach every young mind who would be in charge of the future and play crucial role in shaping the coming decades for Assam. The future summons the doyens of Assam, and let this call ignite the march towards a majestic Assam similar to the day in 1946 which witnessed the fire in the young Bhupen Hazarika, Amolya Barua, Birendra Kumar Bhattacharya, and Atul Chandra Saikia among thousands. Their lives crossed, sculpting out heroic tales to be told in the hallway of Assam's history. So very important topics of Assam history during Indian independence has been mentioned in this editorial. Students, please note them and revise them regularly. Now coming to the next topic in the tax reforms which the government of India has initiated. This topic we will study under General Studies 3, Economic Development. The background is tax evasion has always been a problem in post-independence India, as also large-scale corruption in the revenue collection system. It is a well known that the sacrificial goat in this has been the salaried class whose taxes are deducted at source, while thousands of small businessmen and traders who often earn more money than them go scot-free without ever paying their taxes. Now, this is a statement made in the editorial by the author. Successive governments have tried to combat this evil, which is responsible for phenomena such as black money, in a number of ways using both the carrot and the stick method. Among the carrots offered from time to time had been schemes for reprieve where defaulters can pay what is owed without incurring penalties, but most of these have proved to be damn sweeps, or they have proved to be ineffective. The stick has often been applied to mostly the bigger players, with the enforcement authorities conducting raids, thereby earning the revenue collection department hangman connotations. The taxman is compared with the hangman. One of the novel techniques to unearth black money had been the demonetization move undertaken by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during the government's first term, which had caused immense hardships for the common masses. By now, even the staunchest supporter of the demonetization exercise has been forced to concede that with almost the entire amount of currency in circulation coming back to the RBI's coffers, demonetization had been a spectacular failure. As per the editorial, it is discussed that the demonetization has been a failure. However, the government, which has a soft corner for the corporate sector, during the last 6 years have brought a slew of tax reforms in an effort to ease the assessment and payment process for individual taxpayers, startups, and corporations. Among some measures had been the cutting of corporate tax to 22% from 30% for existing companies, 15% for new manufacturing units, scrapping dividend distribution tax, lowering taxes for individuals, and expediting resolution of tax disputes. So these are some of the measures which the government has taken. The latest of these, which is named as transparent taxation, honoring the honest, launched by the government, is ostensibly designed to change the way taxes are paid in the country and is aimed at encouraging honest taxpayers. The income tax department, which will adopt a taxpayer charter as announced by the Union Finance Minister during the budget, which outlines the rights and responsibilities of both taxpayers and tax officers. So a taxpayer charter is being formulated, which will have both the rights and responsibilities of both tax officers and taxpayers. With electronic replies, zero physical interface of authorities, and instant solutions to tax-related issues, this piece of reform has been touted by Modi as the most convenient and easiest way to tackle income tax litigation issues. Skeptics, however, have doubt that such claims will that such initiatives will help, because as past experience shows that only 1.5 crore people pay taxes in a country of 130 crore, and the fact that the decline in the government's GST collection has been continuous, and it questions or rather it challenges the transparency in the system. So with the measures taken by the government and the recent tax reform measures, it is expected that India's tax collection will improve. Now coming to the next editorial, Phulaguri Dhawa, Unforgettable Heroics. Now this is also a very important topic and important editorial from our General Studies 5 paper, that is the General Studies on Assam, History of Assam topic. Now the background is, on the way to Guwahati, about 12 kilometers away from Nagaon, on the NH37, there is a silent sleepy village known as Phulaguri. So Phulaguri is a village which is on the NH 37, and it is 12 kilometers away from Nagaon. On the left hand side, a gateway draws everyone's attention, wherein it is inscribed Phulaguri Dhawa 1861. Dhawa in Assamese language means revolt. That is Phulaguri revolt of 1861. At a place half a kilometer away, straight to the east, a memorial column has been erected in memory of the martyrs of the Dhawa, in which 39 people attained martyrdom in police firing in 1861. Now, this is a very important historical fact. Students, please make a note of it, because there are many revolts, both peasant and civil revolts in Assam during Indian independence movement. So APSC may ask any of them. So please make a note of it and revise them frequently. The name Phulaguri epitomizes a place once abundant in flowers. So it is explaining here that Phulaguri means a place once abundant with wildflowers. Some historians have traced its links to the rebellion of Maniram Dewan. Maniram visited Roha before proceeding to Kolkata and held several rounds of talks with Rohial Borua secretly, along with local tribal Pachu Rajas and Sato Rajas, Laskars and Mozadars of adjoining areas. V.V. Kamar, a blacksmith by profession, was entrusted with the task of making locally known weaponry at a place called Molankota near Roha. This place is still known to be V.V. Kamar's place, where his factory was set up once. About 1,200 volunteers were selected for warfare training under the chief volunteer Lakshman Singh Deka. These volunteers took part in the Phulaguri Dhawa. Assam passed through a turbulent phase from 1780 to 1826, first because of the Mohammedan revolt and then the Burmese aggression. During our modern Assam history, we will discuss these events, the Mohammedan revolt and the Burmese aggression and the Yandabo Treaty of 1826. So students, please don't worry. For this editorial, we are discussing the facts mentioned only in the editorial. At this juncture, the East India Company intervened. A treaty was signed between two foreign powers on February 24, 1826, and henceforth Assam was annexed by the British. So as it is mentioned that the East India Company intervened, a treaty was signed between two foreign powers. The treaty was signed between the East India Company and the Burmese monarchs, or between the Burma. So, and as a part of the treaty, Assam was annexed by the British. The British initially did not alter the existing revenue system promulgated by the Ahom king, but gradually imposed their own system to their great advantage. The British had already suffered a financial crunch in the government exchequer as a result of the 1857 Sepoy Mutiny, and to get a relief, the British effected a sea change in the land revenue regime. First, they abolished the benefits of age-old tax-free landholding up to 4 puras of land per household and imposed tax. Between 1826 and 1830, land revenue increased by 4 times. The higher rate of land revenue caused much annoyance and dissatisfaction among the public, especially the peasant class. Anandaram Dhekial Phukon, a very important personality of Assam in pre-independence India, is Anandaram Dhekial Phukon. We will study briefly about him in our Assam history course classes. Anandaram Dhekial Phukon recorded that the revenue rate was half of the price of the crops the farmers produced. It was also in the air that the British would impose tax on the palm vines and betel nut cultivations per household. As we know, Indian household, every Assamese household has pan tamul at our Assamese backyards. So the British, so it was assessed that the British would impose tax on that. The British levied rupees 3 as tax on each plough and 1 rupee 2 annas on each spade where the land could not be surveyed. professional tax of rupees 5 was levied on each fisherman, goldsmith and brassmith. The tax-free land of the Ahom era, such as Devotor, Brahmotor, Namkar, Lekhras, etc., was acquired by the British, auctioned, and land tax was imposed. The British imposed taxes on forest wealth such as bamboo, wood, cane, etc., that were tax-free in the Ahom days. So the uh, British tried to extract maximum revenue, and many steps were taken in this regard, which made the people of Assam at that time upset because those were tax-free in the Ahom days. The tract of land along the Kolong River was ideal for poppy cultivation, and in 1852 and 53, poppy was cultivated in 7,970 bighas of land, and 400 mounds of opium were produced. That is kani. There is a saying in Assam, in that part, in medieval and modern Assam, pre-independent, people used to consume kani, that is the opium. In 1861, the government banned poppy cultivation totally. This infuriated the people further. The government ban was not on consumption but only on the cultivation. The British imported opium from Bihar and sold here in Assam at higher prices to earn profits. They also established opium shops. 1,000 people marched on October 7, 1861 to the DC court Nogao to get the anti-peasant policy scrapped and protested against the ban on poppy cultivation. But the DC of that time, Herbert Scone, misbehaved with the crowd, ordered their arrest, fined and baton charged them. As the prayers and petitions failed to move the authorities, the people decided to convene a meeting at a stretch for 5 days from October 15, so that the people from distant places like Roha, Barapuzia, Kampur, Jomunamukh, Neli, Mayong, Tetelia, etc. could take part. The crowd resolved not to pay taxes and to retaliate for the insult they received. The government secret agents gathered the information, and the DC sent Holodhar Daroga to Fulaguri on October 16. On October 17, a few persons were arrested by the Daroga but were rescued by the public. On October 18, the DC deputed Lieutenant Singer with a police force which arrived at Fulaguri at 10 a.m. There were 3,500 persons in the crowd. Lieutenant Singer ordered disarmament of the lathis which the crowd rejected. Along with Holodhar Daroga, Lieutenant Singer tried to disarm them. In the ensuing scuffle, Lieutenant Singer was hit on the head, fell down, and his body was thrown in a kolong. Another 3 policemen were killed. The crowd went berserk. One group proceeded to Roha and killed the Daroga of the Thana, Golab Singh. On October 19, Captain Campbell came to Fulaguri with 50 armed personnel, surrounded the crowd from all sides, ordered the crowd to disperse and stop the meeting. When the meeting did not obey the orders, the police resorted to indiscriminate firing, killing 39 people while 66 others were arrested. On October 23, General Henry Hopkinson visited Fulaguri, Neli, Kosuhat, Roha, and several other places with reinforcement and arrested 41 more people. Temporary jails were erected at Fulaguri and Roha with bamboo piles. More than 400 people were kept under the open sky without any shelter. Many perished. Mass cremation was done on the bank of a bill still known as the Manupura bill. The police camped for several months at those places, and free provisions had to be provided by the public itself. Not being able to tolerate seeing the torture inflicted on the people, the chief of the volunteer force, Lakshman Singh Deka, and his associates, Kangbor Lalung and Rongbong Deka, confessed to the crime of killing Lieutenant Singer. They were tried and later hanged till death at the Nagaon jail. Rup Singh Lalung, Sip Singh Lalung, Nor Singh Lalung, Hebra Lalung, Bahu Koiboto, Bonomali Koiboto, Kotia Lalung were banished to the Andaman Islands, that is the Kalapani. 60 other persons were convicted of varying terms, 1 to 10 years in prison. Similar upheavals took place at Pathurughat on January 18, 1894, where 140 people were killed at Romia on December 24, 1893, and at Lasimar on January 21, 1894. So various peasant revolts occurred in Assam. Students, please make a note, especially the editorial discusses about the Phulaguri revolt, the Phulaguri Dhawa, and further another important revolt was the Patharughat revolt. So students, please note the dates of this revolt and the places it occurred. So the date of Patharughat is January 18, 1894. Also a revolt occurred at Romia and at Lasimar. Phulaguri Dhawa was the first peasantry revolt against the British, and it shook the foundation of the British government in Assam. So students, with this we come to an end to the editorial. Many important points were made with respect to Assam history in pre-independent India. Please make a note of it. We will further discuss them in our Assam history classes. We are also discussing the Apne Desh Ko Jano segment. Here, as a Independence Day special, the national anthem of India is discussed. It says that during our independence, the India did not have national anthem when it became independent on August 15, 1947. Though the Bengali invocation of Jana Gana Mana was written in 1911, it was not considered as national anthem till 1950. So students, please remember this fact. In prelims MCQ based questions, any option may be given like this. So please remember it so that correct option can be marked in the examination. With this, we come to an end to this Assam Tribune analysis. At Civil Services Achievers Point, we have various courses, offline regular courses, online live classes, free initiatives. We have mock interview initiatives. Also, we are coming up with optional class, ethics class, and CSET classes. For further details, please call the number given at the screen below. Also, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Telegram to keep updated. Thank you.